The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with the sounds of 100 different alien voices. Some clicked, some hummed, and others made noises that no human throat could copy. Ambassador Taman sat quietly in the small human section, watching the chaos around him. 3 years? He had been doing this job for 3 years now. 3 long years of listening to aliens talk about humans like they were children who had just learned to walk. 3 years of polite smiles while council members made jokes about the monkey people and their cute little ships. Taman adjusted his formal black suit and checked his tablet. Today's meeting was about mining rights in the Kepler system. Human colonies there had found something wrong. Big alien companies were taking metals and rare earth materials without permission. They were stealing from human worlds, and Taman had proof. Next case, announced Speaker Veltar from his high platform. The spider-like alien was twice as tall as any human, with 8 arms that moved like liquid metal. His voice carried across the hall through translation devices. Human territorial dispute, case number 7749. Taman stood up and walked to the center of the hall. Around him, hundreds of alien eyes watched. Some were curious. Most looked bored. A few seemed annoyed that they had to waste time on human problems. Honored Speaker Taman began, his voice calm and professional. I bring evidence of illegal mining operations in human space. The Hegemony Coalition has been taking resources from 3 human worlds without proper permits or payment. He held up his tablet. The screen showed clear pictures of massive mining ships in orbit around New Sol. The ships were 10 times bigger than anything humans could build. They were sucking metals from asteroid belts that belonged to human colonies. These operations violate the Galactic Trade Agreement. Section 12. Tamian continued. Human colonies have lost over 2 billion credits in stolen resources. We request immediate compensation and a stop to all illegal activities. The hall was quiet for a moment. Then Speaker Veltar made a sound that the translator turned into laughter. Around the hall, other council members joined in. The Hegemony representative, a tall blue alien named Korthon, was practically shaking with amusement. Ambassador Taman, Speaker Veltar said, his voice dripping with fake concern. Perhaps you do not understand how things work in the real galaxy. More laughter echoed through the hall. Taman felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. The Hegemony Coalition has been mining in space for over 10,000 years, the speaker continued. Your species has been in space for what, 50 years? 60 years. You are like children who just learned to count, trying to teach mathematics. 2 professors. The laughter got louder. Taman saw alien council members nudging each other and pointing at him. His hands stayed steady, but his heart was beating faster. Honored Speaker Taman, try it again. The law is clear. Those are human systems. The law. Speaker Veltar interrupted. My dear primitive friend, the law is made by civilized beings. For civilized beings, perhaps you should be grateful that the hegemony is teaching your people proper mining techniques. Think of it as education. The hegemony representative Korthon stood up. The speaker is wise, he said with a bow. Human colonies are so new, so inexperienced. We are helping them learn how space mining really works. They should thank us for the free lessons. The hall erupted in laughter again. This time it was different. This time it was cruel. Taman could hear aliens making comments that the translators turned into words like monkeys, primitives, and pets. A tall, thin alien from the crystalline assembly called out, maybe we should give them coloring books instead of mining rights. The hall shook with laughter. Another voice shouted, do they even know which end of a plasma torch to hold? More laughter. Speaker Veltar raised one of his 8 arms for quiet. Perhaps, he said with mock seriousness. Humanity needs a few more centuries of guidance before they can participate in adult conversations. The Galactic Council is patient. We can wait for you to evolve. The laughter was so loud now that Taman could feel it in his bones. Hundreds of aliens, representing dozens of species, were all laughing at humanity, at him, at his people, at everything humans had worked for in the past 60 years. Taman looked around the hall. In the Valkyrie section, lizard-like beings were hissing with amusement. The gas-breathing ethereals were changing colors and patterns that meant humor. Even the usually serious Titan Republic representatives were making rumbling sounds that meant they found this funny. For 3 years, Taman had endured this. For 3 years he had smiled politely and tried to be diplomatic. For 3 years, he had told himself that patience would win respect. He had been wrong. The human section of the hall was tiny compared to the others, just 10 seats in a hall that held thousands. That was humanity's place in the galaxy. Apparently, 10 seats and a job of being everyone's entertainment. Tay-Min closed his tablet with a soft click. The sound was small, but in that moment, it felt like the loudest thing in the hall. Very well, he said quietly. His voice was so calm that it cut through the laughter like a knife. The hall began to quiet down as aliens realized the human was speaking again. I believe this concludes our business here, Taman continued. His voice never got louder, never showed anger. But something in his tone made the entire hall go silent. He gathered his papers, slowly, carefully. He picked up his tablet and put it in his briefcase. He straightened his tie and brushed an invisible piece of dust from his jacket. Ambassador Taman, Speaker Veltar called out. You will return to your designated area. This session is not over. Taman looked up at the giant spider-like being on his high platform. For just a moment, their eyes met. In that moment, Speaker Veltar saw something in the human's face that made him stop talking. Yes, it is, Taman said simply. He turned and walked toward the exit. His steps echoed in the silent hall. Every alien I followed him as he moved between the rows of seats toward the door. Ambassador Taman. Speaker Veltar's voice was angry now. You will return to your position immediately. Taman didn't stop walking. He didn't look back. He didn't say another word. As he reached the exit, he could hear the hall exploding into confused chatter behind him. Aliens were asking what just happened. Some were still laughing. Others sounded worried. Taman walked through the door and it closed behind him with a soft hiss in the hallway outside. He pulled out his personal communicator. The device immediately connected to Earth through quantum transmission. Every human colony, every human ship, every human station would receive his next words instantly. This is Ambassador Taman, he said into the device. Diplomatic mission to Nexus Prime is complete. All human personnel are to implement Protocol 7 immediately. I repeat, Protocol 7 is now active. He put the communicator away and walked toward the transport bay. Behind him, the Great Hall of Nexus Prime continued its confused chatter, unaware that everything had just changed. What the aliens didn't know was that Taman's entire presentation had been broadcast live to every human world. They had all heard the laughter, they had all heard the insults. They had all heard Speaker Veltar call them children who needed to evolve, and now they had all heard Taman activate Protocol 7, the protocol that would change the galaxy forever. 6 hours after Ambassador Taman walked out of the council hall, something strange started happening across the galaxy. It began quietly, like most important changes do. On Trading Station Meridian, alien merchant Kexari arrived for his morning business as usual. Kexari was a short, round creature with purple skin and 4 arms. He had been trading with humans for 2 years now. They made the best entertainment devices in the galaxy, and they always paid on time. But when Kexari reached the human quarter of the station, everything was wrong. The lights were off, the shops were empty. The busy streets where humans usually walked and talked were completely silent. Kexari checked his time device twice. This was the middle of the human business day. The quarter should be full of people. He walked to Jin's Electronics, the shop where he bought human music players every week. The metal security gate was down. A small sign hung on the front, closed. Thank you for your business, Jin. Kex called out Jin. Are you there? No answer. He tried the next shop, then the next. All closed. All empty. All with the same polite signs thanking customers and saying goodbye at the end of the street. Kexari found Station Security Officer Grex examining an empty human apartment. Grex was a tall, thin alien with green skin and large black eyes. What happened here? Kexari asked. Grex looked confused. I do not know. The humans are all gone. Every single one. They left sometime during the night shift. Gone. Gone where? Unknown. They took all their belongings, they paid all their bills, they left no forwarding information. Grex showed Kexari his security tablet. Look at this. The screen showed security camera footage from the previous night. Humans were walking calmly through the station corridors, carrying bags and boxes. They moved like they had a plan. Number 1 was running. No one looked scared. They just walked to the transport bays and left. How many humans lived here? Kexari asked. 15,000, Grex replied. All gone in 6 hours. Kexari felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had made good money trading with humans. More than that, he had started to like them. They were always friendly and honest. Now they were gone like they had never existed. On the other side of the galaxy, something similar was happening at the Galactic Council Embassy on Zarian Prime. Ambassador Hyojin had represented human interests there for 3 years. She was known for her quiet intelligence and her ability to solve problems that other diplomats could not handle. But when Zarian Trade Minister Vulcan arrived for their weekly meeting, he found Hyojin's office completely empty. The furniture was still there. The computer was still on the desk. But all personal items were gone. All the human cultural artifacts that had decorated the walls were missing. The office felt like a museum display of a people who had vanished. On the desk was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. Thank you for 3 years of cooperation. Diplomatic relations are suspended indefinitely. Ambassador Hyojin Vulcan read the note 3 times. He could not understand it. Just yesterday, Hyojin had been working on a new trade agreement. She had seemed happy about the progress they were making. What had changed overnight? The same scene was playing out on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Human traders, diplomats, doctors, teachers, and engineers were all disappearing at the same time. They left behind empty offices, closed shops, and confused alien friends. On New Titan, the mining world where humans and Titans had worked together for 5 years, Foreman Brokter discovered that all 47 human engineers had vanished. During the night shift, they had left their mining equipment clean and organized. They had finished all their current projects. They had even left detailed notes about ongoing work. but they were gone. Dr. Yunsu had been working at the Galactic Medical Center on Helix Station for 2 years. She was developing new treatments for 3 rare alien diseases. Her research was close to breakthrough discoveries that could save millions of lives. When her alien research partner, Dr. Zenthera, arrived at their lab that morning, she found all of Dr. Yunsu's personal research locked behind security codes. A message on the computer screen said, "Research suspended. All human medical personnel have been recalled." Dr. Zenthera tried calling Dr. Yunsu's personal communicator. The device said the number was no longer in service. Back on Nexus Prime, Speaker Veltar was having the worst day of his long political career. His morning briefing was supposed to be routine. Instead, his staff presented him with reports that made no sense. "Sir," said his aide, a nervous creature named Pixtel, "we have a problem. All human diplomatic personnel have abandoned their posts." "What do you mean abandoned?" Veltar asked. "Gone, sir. Every human embassy, trade office, and cultural center in council space is empty. They all left at the same time." Veltar waved one of his 8 arms dismissively. "It is a tantrum. They are angry about yesterday's session. They will be back in a few days when they realize how foolish they are being." But Pixtel looked more worried. "Sir, it is not just diplomats. Human traders, doctors, engineers, teachers, they are all gone. Every human in council space has disappeared." Disappeared. Veltar's voice got sharper. "Not disappeared, sir. They left. All at the same time. Like they had been planning it." Veltar thought about this. Humans were emotional creatures, everyone knew that. They probably got their feelings hurt and decided to go home to cry. They would realize their mistake soon enough. "Have we tried contacting human leadership directly?" he asked. "Yes, sir. All communication attempts to human worlds get the same response. Diplomatic relations suspended indefinitely." Veltar made a clicking sound that meant annoyance. "Fine, let them sulk. They need us more than we need them. They will come crawling back when they realize how much money they are losing." But as the days passed, something strange began to happen. The humans did not come back. They did not send angry messages. They did not make demands or threats. They simply stopped talking to the galactic community completely. At first, most aliens agreed with Speaker Veltar. The humans were having an emotional reaction. They would get over it. But after a week, some people started to worry. Kexhari could not find anyone to sell him the human entertainment devices that his customers loved. Other traders had the same problem. Human products were simply not available anymore. Dr. Zenthara realized she could not complete her medical research without Dr. Yunsu's expertise. The disease treatments that could save millions of lives were stuck at 90% completion. Foreman Brochter discovered that his mining operation was 20% less efficient without human engineers. The humans had been quietly solving problems and improving systems every day. On hundreds of worlds, aliens were starting to notice empty spaces where humans used to be. But the strangest part was the silence. Humans were not complaining. They were not protesting. They were not making speeches about how unfairly they had been treated. They had simply vanished from galactic civilization like they had never been part of it at all. In the council chambers, Speaker Veltar tried to maintain confidence. "They will be back," he told anyone who would listen. "Humans are too primitive to survive without our guidance. This foolish protest will end soon." But privately, Veltar was beginning to wonder. He had expected angry messages, demands for apologies, threats of economic warfare. Instead, there was only silence. And somehow, the silence was more frightening than any threat could have been. 3 months had passed since the humans went silent. What started as confusion was now becoming panic. Factory supervisor Grulanash stood in the middle of his production floor on the industrial world Korthak, staring at machines that had been shut down for 2 weeks. His factory made the quantum conductors that powered faster-than-light engines for starships across 17 star systems. The problem was simple but deadly. They were out of polymer coating. Humans had developed a special plastic material that made quantum conductors work better and last longer. Before humans arrived in the galaxy, quantum conductors broke down every few months. Human polymer coating made them last for years. Grulanash had never thought much about where the coating came from. It just arrived on schedule every month in neat containers marked with human writing. Now, those deliveries had stopped. "How much coating do we have left?" he asked his assistant Krelvox. "None, sir. We used the last batch yesterday." Grulanash felt his 4 hearts beating faster. "Can we make it ourselves?" "We tried, sir. Our chemists cannot figure out the human formula. They say it would take years to develop something similar." Around the factory floor, hundreds of workers stood beside silent machines. Without quantum conductors, starship production would stop. Without starships, trade between worlds would slow to almost nothing. Grulanash tried calling the human company that had supplied the polymer. An automated voice answered, "Services no longer available to Galactic Council territories." The same message, word for word, that everyone was getting. On the pleasure world, Serenia tourism director Nelthi faced a different but equally serious problem. Her world was famous across the galaxy for entertainment and relaxation. Aliens came from hundreds of light years away to enjoy. Serenia's perfect beaches and amazing shows, but visitor numbers had dropped by 60% in just 3 months. The problem was that humans had been designing most of the entertainment experiences. They had a strange talent for understanding what different alien species found fun or relaxing. A human named Minho had created the popular Crystal Caves experience that gas-breathing aliens loved. A human woman named Yunji had designed the zero-G gardens that made rock-based life forms feel peaceful. Without human creativity, the entertainment centers felt boring and empty. Can't we just copy what the humans were doing? Nalthi asked her staff. We tried, said her assistant. But when we copy human designs exactly, they don't work the same way. Somehow the humans understood alien psychology better than we understand ourselves. Nalthi looked at the visitor reports again. The numbers were getting worse every week. Soon, Serenia would be just another pretty planet with empty hotels, but the most serious crisis was happening in the medical centers. Dr. Xanthera sat in her laboratory on Helix Station, staring at research data that might as well have been written in an unknown language. For 2 years, she had worked with Dr. Yunsu to develop cures for 3 rare diseases that killed millions of aliens every year. They had been so close. The research was 95% complete. Dr. Yunsu had said they might have working treatments within months. Now Dr. Yunsu was gone, and all her research notes were locked behind security codes that no one could break. Have you tried contacting human medical authorities? Asked Dr. Xanthera's supervisor. Every day for 3 months, she replied, the same automated message. Service is no longer available to Galactic Council territories. Dr. Xanthera had never realized how much of their breakthrough research had come from Dr. Yunsu's insights. The human doctor had a way of seeing patterns that alien scientists missed. Without her, the research project was dead. On hundreds of worlds, similar problems were growing worse every day. The Crystalline Assembly discovered that human-designed meditation music was essential to their spiritual practices. Without it, their monks could not reach proper states of enlightenment. The Titan Republic found that human mining techniques had improved their resource extraction by 40%. Without human engineers, their economy was slowly crashing. The Ethereal Collective realized that human translators had been making communication between species much smoother. Without them, misunderstandings and conflicts were increasing. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, economic advisors presented increasingly frightening reports to Speaker Veltar. Sir, said Chief Economic Advisor Zorthak 17 Major. Industries are reporting critical shortages of human-made materials. So Veltar replied, other species can make the same things. No sir, they cannot. Human innovations were unique. We have tried to replicate their work, but we cannot match their quality or efficiency. Veltar waved his arms impatiently. You are exaggerating. Humans are a primitive species. How could they be essential to our economy? Zorthak showed him a data display. Sir, in the 3 years since humans joined galactic trade, they had become suppliers for over 2,000 critical products. They were not just customers, they were inventors, innovators, and problem solvers. The display showed trade routes that had gone dark, factories that had shut down, and research projects that had stopped. The economic damage was spreading like a disease through the galaxy. This is temporary, Veltar insisted. When the humans realize they are hurting themselves, they will return. But deep down, Speaker Veltar was beginning to doubt his own words. 6 months of silence had passed. Speaker Veltar's patience was gone. Enough, he announced to the emergency council session. The humans have had their tantrum. Now we must force them to see reason. The emergency session had been called because the economic crisis was getting worse every day. Half the galaxy's trade routes were disrupted, factories were closing. Some worlds were facing shortages of basic materials. I propose a diplomatic mission, Veltar continued. A small fleet will visit human space and demand negotiations. Several council members looked uncomfortable. Councillor Rackstyle, representing the Ethereal Collective, spoke carefully. Perhaps we should try other methods first, she suggested. The humans have shown they can survive without our trade. They might not respond well to ... pressure. Veltar's voice turned cold. They are one small species against the entire galaxy. They will listen to reason. The vote was close, but Faction 1. A fleet of 12 council warships would travel to the human colony of New Busan and force the humans to negotiate. Admiral Zextal commanded the council fleet from his flagship, the Dominator. He was a veteran of dozens of conflicts and had never met an enemy he could not defeat. As the fleet approached New Busan, Zextal expected to find a struggling colony ready to surrender. Human technology was primitive. Their weapons were basic. Their ships were small and slow. But when the council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, they found something that made no sense. The space around New Busan was filled with structures that were not in any council database. Geometric shapes made of unknown materials floated in perfect formations. Energy readings showed power levels that should have been impossible for human technology. Sir, reported his scanner officer, I am detecting massive defensive installations. These readings are far beyond known human capabilities. Before Admiral Zextal could respond, his communication system activated. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "Council vessels. This is Admiral Hyun-jae of the New Busan Defense Force. This system is under human protection. You have 30 minutes to withdraw to a safe distance." Admiral Zextal had been insulted by many enemies over the years, but never had anyone given him orders so casually. "Human commander," he replied. "I am Admiral Zextal of the Galactic Council Fleet. You will allow us to approach your world for diplomatic talks." "There is nothing to discuss," Admiral Hyun-jae replied. Simply. The Council fleet moved forward. They outnumbered any human force, and their weapons were far more advanced than anything humans had ever built, or so they thought. What happened next would be called the 30-second lesson. Without warning, every council ship suddenly lost power to their weapons. Then their engines shut down. Then their communication systems went dead. In exactly 30 seconds, 12 powerful warships became helpless pieces of metal floating in space. Admiral Zextal's bridge was lit only by emergency power. His crew stared at their dead control panels in shock. Admiral Hyun-jae's voice returned, still perfectly calm. "Your ships will regain minimal function in 1 hour. You will leave immediately and not return. Any future attacks on human space will be met with permanent consequences." "How?" Admiral Zextal whispered. "How did you do this? You dismissed us as primitive." Admiral Hyun-jae replied. "You stopped paying attention to what we were learning. That was your mistake." 1 hour later, exactly as promised, the council ships regained just enough power to limp home. As they retreated, Admiral Zextal's scanners detected dozens of human ships emerging from stealth fields, ships that had been invisible until now, ships that looked like nothing in council databases. The humans had been busy during their 6 months of silence. News of the fleet's humiliation spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Speaker Veltar tried to keep the details secret, but too many people had been monitoring council military frequencies. An emergency session after emergency session, council members demanded answers. "How did a primitive species defeat our best fleet without firing a shot?" demanded Councillor Vexfer. "Where did humans get such advanced technology?" asked Councillor Min-G. Speaker Veltar had no good answers. Worse, the economic crisis was becoming a disaster. The Hegemony Coalition reported that their luxury goods market had completely collapsed. Apparently, human aesthetic sense had been driving fashion trends across dozens of species. The Crystal Monks announced that their meditation centers were closing because human-composed harmony frequencies were essential to their spiritual practices. The Iraq Trade Consortium admitted that human logistics systems had been secretly managing supply chains across half the galaxy. Most shocking of all, Council military advisors revealed that human tactical innovations had been quietly adopted by defense forces everywhere. Without access to human strategic thinking, many worlds felt vulnerable to attack. Councillor Min-gi, who represented 12 smaller worlds, finally spoke the truth that everyone was avoiding. "We made a terrible mistake," she said during a public session. "We treated humans like children while they were becoming the backbone of our civilization." She stood up, her tall, elegant form commanding attention. "My people have been working with human agricultural consultants for 2 years. Without human farming techniques, we are facing food shortages that could kill 3 billion of my citizens." The chamber fell silent. "I received a message from human agricultural specialist, Dr. Sujin yesterday," Min-ji continued. "She said she was sorry that our partnership had to end, but the Galactic Council had made its position clear. Humans were not welcome as equals." Speaker Veltar felt panic rising in his chest. "The humans will negotiate. They must, will they?" Min-ji asked. "We laughed at them. We called them primitives and children. We told them they needed to evolve before they could talk to adults. Why would they want to return to that?" For the first time in his long career, Speaker Veltar had no answer. In desperation, he authorized direct contact attempts with human leadership. But every message got the same automated response. The Galactic Council expelled humanity from meaningful participation. Humanity has accepted this decision. The final blow came when Speaker Veltar tried to contact Ambassador Taemin personally. He had always thought the quiet human diplomat was weak and emotional. Perhaps he could be convinced to return, but Taemin was nowhere to be found. Human worlds would not even confirm if he was alive. 1 year after the silence began, Speaker Veltar made the hardest decision of his life. Standing before cameras that would broadcast his words across the galaxy, the proud leader of the Galactic Council did something he had never done before. He apologized. "To the human species," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "the Galactic Council formally apologizes for our treatment of your people. We request the immediate resumption of diplomatic relations." The response came 3 days later, not from Ambassador Tamian, but from someone called Director Haewon, speaking from an unknown location. Director Haewon was a middle-aged human woman with short gray hair and calm, intelligent eyes. She spoke with the same quiet confidence that had made Ambassador Tamian so effective. "Speaker Veltar," she said, "the Galactic Council has made its position toward humanity very clear. You view us as primitive children who need guidance to evolve. We accept this assessment. She paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity will no longer seek inclusion in galactic civilization. We understand that we are not wanted as equals. Speaker Veltar felt his heart stop beating. However, Director Haywan continued. Individual species and worlds are welcome to establish direct relationships with human territories. We are prepared to engage with civilizations that approach us as equals. The impact was immediate and devastating. Within days, Counselor Minji announced that her 12 worlds were withdrawing from the Galactic Council to form direct partnerships. With humanity, the Crystal Monks followed, then the Ethereal Collective, then dozens of smaller species who had been quietly working with humans for years. Captain Soyoung, humanity's new trade negotiator, started hosting meetings on the human world of new harmony. The terms she offered were revolutionary: equal representation, shared decision-making, and mutual respect protocols. Species after species abandoned the council in favor of human partnerships. The economic benefits were enormous, but more than that, they discovered something the galaxy had never experienced: genuine partnership without condescension. The Meridian Trade Compact became a model for the new galactic order. Humans, Crystal Monks, Ethereals, and 17 other species formed an alliance based on equality and respect. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council chambers grew emptier every day. Speaker Veltar watched his empire crumble from his high platform. The species that remained were mostly the arrogant ones who had laughed loudest at humanity. The useful, productive civilizations were all leaving. The final humiliation came when Ambassador Taumian returned to Nexus Prime one last time. He walked through the half-empty council chambers like a ghost from the past. He was exactly the same as before, quiet, polite, and professional. But now his presence felt different, dangerous. He handed Speaker Veltar a simple paper document. "Formal notice," Timon said calmly. "Humanity is establishing the Free Galactic Confederation. Membership is open to all species willing to treat each other with dignity." Speaker Veltar looked at the paper with his 8 eyes. "Ambassador, surely we can discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Timon interrupted, using the same words Admiral Hyun-jae had spoken to the Council fleet. As Timon walked away, Speaker Veltar realized the terrible truth. Humanity had never needed the Council's approval. They had only wanted respect. By refusing to give it, the Council had destroyed itself. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in demanding respect, but in quietly proving you never needed their approval in the first place.